accepted. So hopefully we pick up a few more.
All right. Okay, so puratia mai rā te tika hei kōrero, puratia mai rā te pono hei wānanga, puratia mai te rā aroha hei āwhina I te nāko o te tangata, kia tū, kia atia, kia marama, hui e, te ahi e. It's unfold the truth of mind to speak freely, unfold the truth of heart to learn, unfold the love of humanity to be open to the opportunities so as to stand unencumbered and with clarity. Let us be one. We have united in conscious thought. I'd also just like to note the passing of Kingi Tu Heitia and our respects, and note that the agenda as a consequence has changed, as we were to have had Lawrence Meredith, the EU ambassador, joining us today, but he is participating in the ceremonies, so is unable to join us. So we've had a late rejigging of the agenda, but we have had commitment from Lawrence to join us next time, which will be the November meeting, the last one for the year. So on that note, Ril, shall I hand over to you for an update?
Sure thing. Forgive me, everybody. I'm pretty out of the loop, but had baptism by fire yesterday with my first day back from leave, and had a wonderful time, wonderful adventure with the family over in Europe. It was crazy busy and crazy hot. So the opposite of New Zealand, to the point where it was more like heat stroke weather than freezing and needing to put your scarves around your neck weather. So but we had a brilliant time, and it's good to be back. Look, there's only a couple of things on the agenda for me. I've come back and we've got our one-day summit with 2ANZ next week in Auckland on the 12th of September, and we haven't got as many people there as we would like, and whether or not that's a symptom of what is currently going on in the sector or other reasons, I suspect it's because we're all feeling a little bit confused and a little bit not really knowing where we stand with things, but it's a perfect opportunity for us to all get together and to discuss where to next. We've got some absolutely fabulous speakers that are joining us. We have an opening from Minister of Health Shane Retty and Lee Donoghue, and that's where both groups of people will be together. Then in our own stream, we have the likes of Bill English and Frances Hughes, who, if you've heard, has been appointed as one of the Deputy Health Commissioners under Lester Levy. She's giving a keynote, and we have some wonderful panels as well, discussing some of the other opportunities that might be available within the health sector, not just looking at government work, but primary care, the private sector, and so on and so forth. So where can we go and what can we do over this challenging time? So I really want to encourage everybody to sign up for that. Kelly would have put everything there in the chat. We are hoping to get our numbers up a little bit and get some really good support, which we usually have from DHA members, and have you all there. If the cost is too much, please talk to us. It's not a huge cost to attend the event, about $170, which just covers the catering for the day. And we're looking forward to having some conversations with everybody and trying to motivate and move things forward and keep the momentum up. And then my second one, which really is coming up quite fast as well, is our quarterly hui, and that will be the following week, and Darren Douglas will be there to give us an update. We're just trying to look at a couple of other people who might be on the agenda as well. We've got over 90 of you signed up for that one, but not as many for next week. And so we we are keen to hear from the Health New Zealand crew. We do have at least 9 Health New Zealand people coming to this summit next week, so it's a good opportunity to catch up with Health New Zealand team as well. Oh, and one other person I forgot to mention on the guest list is Judith Collins. So she's coming and will be at the end of the day when we all come back together to discuss digitising government and science research and innovation, which is also really important to our crew as well. And so we've got the quarterly catch up with me. I'm going to have to get my head around things pretty quickly to be able to run that, but thankfully I've got a couple of weeks. And then let's see where we land with that as well. So really encourage you all to come along to the one-day summit. It is going to be a really good day. We have some fabulous speakers and some opportunities to put some feedback in about where your ideas are and where we can go from next. We'll collate all that and come back to you and see if there's anything that we can turn it into. And that's it from me, Clax. I need to unmute yourself, my friend. Oh, yeah,
Impatient, on, off. Right. Sorry, it's just also going to add, I don't know about other people, but I usually dial in live or watch the replays of the Te Whatu Ora's Building the Future of Health monthly updates, and I find them quite useful, usually led by Margie, and are always interesting about what's going on from a Te Whatu Ora perspective. And that the next one of those is on Wednesday next week. And they're 45 minutes long, so they're pretty punchy, and available on replay through, if you Google the Te Whatu Ora website. Okay, on that note, I will hand over, as per what you can see on the screen. I've got Erica, so I'll stop sharing and you can take over, Erica, and Robert Milsom from New Zealand Trade Enterprise.
Right, see if the presentation works. Did that come through?
Not yet, Erica. Here it's coming now.
Yeah. Wonderful. Okay, let's, which one am I driving? Multiple screens here. Look, we're just going to race through this because I think John's got some amazing experience to share with us, which is a much better in terms of his international and export experience over the years. So I'm just going to give a little bit of an update on NZTE, where we're heading to in the next year or so. And then there are some upcoming NZTE key health activities that some of you might be interested in joining. Clax was wanting me to talk a little bit about the EU FDA and health tech. I've got some interesting findings from there that I'll share with you, and something fun. And then not to forget that just keep going into the My NZTE landing page. We have a health tech landing page which we launched last year, so that is still going. And if that is useful, we will keep that running as well. So do let me know
Okay, can I
how you find that. Hello?
Yeah, we are looking, because we're just building our new website, and we'll have a wee version of it hopefully live by the end of September. And we're hoping to link towards your health tech landing page so that we can actually just make sure that we've got those links moving through with NZTE. So that may not be in the first iteration of the live website, but that is on our plan and on our master plan to make sure that we get you there, and we have some of these landing pages and resources available for our members so they can get in touch.
Okay, that's no problem, because we've got you guys as a link on our landing page. So a lot in terms of resources for people to direct people to your website as well.
Yeah,
and
that'd
then
be great.
Robert will, cover all things Australia and what's happening over there and all the wonderful activities that he is doing over there as well. And although we've got Q&A towards the end, I'm happy for you to just jump in and ask questions throughout the talk as well. But if you want to, you can always wait to the end and we can have a bit of a Q&A then. Right, let's get going and get real up to speed on what's happening in New Zealand. So as we know, the global growth has slowed, and we know that it is very challenging times for everyone. Right now, cash is king for our businesses, and many have and are already shifted from growth at all costs to focusing on sustainable growth and profitability. Our government has 5 pillars, and these, as you would have seen, been played out in the media over recent times. And you probably know more about this than I would, and I won't go into a lot of details. But as you can see, there's education and skills, lots of changes happening there, regulations, changes happening there. Our Prime Minister is running around the world looking at international connections. He's currently in South Korea at the moment, following Malaysia. And then there is some, science and technology with Judith Collins, and infrastructure changes happening there from a government perspective. And also there is a lot of focus on investment. Our government is looking to see whether we can attract a lot more investment into New Zealand. And then, as you all know, a big reduction in costs around government spend. What I will focus on is where New Zealand NZTE has an important role to play is around doubling the value of exports. So our focus strategy for the next 3 years will set out how we will look to do this alongside our key partners across government and private sectors, as we know that we can't do this alone. Exports are critical to New Zealand, delivering about 95 billion to the economy each year. As we're facing global challenges, economic challenges, export growth will boost and help stabilise our economy. The government's goal is to double the value of exports over the next 10 years, from 95 billion to 190 billion per annum, which is approximately about 7% a year. Our purpose remains the same, as you know, to grow businesses internationally for the good of New Zealand. How we're going to execute this might change. If you have dedicated customer managers like myself, they will explain this to you in more detail. So I won't go through this in detail because it does get a little bit, but I'll cover some highlights. So in the meantime, we are currently working and building 4 key strategic pillars to our strategy. I'll briefly focus on the 2 that are most relevant here. Those 4 are around growth, acceleration, Maori businesses and investment, but I'll just do some highlights on growth and acceleration. So growth, we're focusing our support for the most ambitious growth-oriented companies. And in acceleration, we are looking at working with emerging high growth companies and rapidly growing larger high potential businesses. So if you want to know more details, your customer manager will get down and talk to you in detail. If you don't have customer managers, happy for you to give me a call directly and we can talk to that in detail as well. So in terms of our EU, New Zealand EU FTA, as we know, FTA is significantly about reducing costs through tariff reductions, help ease market access, and create high value opportunity for New Zealand businesses into this region marked by a lot of high income consumers. EU is New Zealand's 4th largest trading partner, a 2-way trade worth about 21.5 billion. That was recorded back in September 23. By 2035, we're hoping that this will increase up to New Zealand 1.8 billion per annum. Top exporters in the EU, no surprise there, is around food and beverages and manufacturing, but with a growing area in specialised high-tech manufacturing and technology. So we do want to see more tech in terms of exports. There are a plethora of information in this, and Clax was wanting me to dive into, the digital health and how we can kind of get more value out of the EU FTA. So, and I'd wade through the information, and there is so much information here. So what I thought I'd do is I embrace a little bit of AI using our co-pilot and see what it would come up with. I've asked it about the benefits for the New Zealand EU FTA for the digital health sector. And here's what its response in terms of just high level on a few intangibles beyond tariff relief. You can look at that and see that in detail. A list there. I didn't go into a lot of details, but as you know, AI is not always right. So please check the facts with the official MFAT website on the digital trade, or you can ask NZ or ask MFAT helpline, which I've got there, those links, and I'm happy for you to, Kelly, to add that into your website, or otherwise I will look to put this on our My NZT health tech landing page as well. So that's a little bit of something. I know there's not a lot of details in there specific to health tech, but that is around our digital trade area. So more exciting stuff is a few things that are upcoming in terms of NZT health tech activities around the world. If you don't know already, the Middle East is going through some amazing growth and changes. The UAE and Saudi governments are investing heavily in innovation and world-leading healthcare system to address their rising diabetes and obesity rates. Thus, some potential opportunity right now for New Zealand health tech to play in this region. So we had a call last night with our Saudi team, and some of the lessons that I took away from that call from a lot of with our ambassador and our companies doing business or are interested in doing business in Saudi. The companies that have been working in the region, Clax, you will know, Orion is right in there for many years now. And so some of the companies have suggested the lessons learned that you really need to go into market. But the region is rapidly growing, and the government are wanting to leapfrog the learnings, and they are looking closely at our health system and also the likes of NHS. As exporters, we can lean into this and talk about your customers in other markets to build your credibility in this region. In the region, we are aiming to focus to raise some profiles and raise awareness of some of our customers in the region. So what we're planning to do is to host a couple of activities around some key events. So in Dubai, in October the 15th, we are looking at hosting a New Zealand Health Symposium. And we've got 3 companies signed up already. We've got Simplicity, CBS, and Orion Health. But if you are, although the registration is closed, if you are really interested and you absolutely need to be there, do let me know at the end of this call, and I will endeavour to get you registered. Right, Real, you have a question. You've got your hands up.
Yeah, just around that, Erica, are we able to perhaps, because, this isn't reaching the widest audience, but would you like us to get a notification out around that with an invitation for that? Can we work with you on something around that?
Yeah, so this is actually on our My NZT landing page as well. It's listed there, and this particular New Zealand Healthcare Symposium registration is closed. But let me just go in, and I'll put the I'll put in the link here for you. But if you do want to know more, I just moved out of there
I
and
think
I've
what would
lost
be
that.
great is to have a catch up with you afterwards to understand how we can be informed of what's coming up, because what I have to admit, we get so busy we don't jump onto the landing page. We've just got so much going on, so it would be great if we just sort of we can talk about, well, how do we actually connect with you a bit more so we can actually get this out if it's closed, and then get it out to our members and get some, because we can send it out via our email notifications and say, look, get in touch, this is happening. We'd really like our members to be involved. If you're working in that area, please do this, and so on and so forth. We're more than happy to help in that way.
Okay, we do do a lot of pre-qualifications on the sort of companies that we would look to put up on the panel as well, because it's about building credibility, not just for the companies who are there, but also for the New Zealand health tech industry. Yeah. So if you want to, you can always set it up in an alert in our MyNZTE, and it would notify you with new activities or new events. So you don't have to kind of keep going in there. Just set up an alert once you go in there. So that makes things a lot easier, because my colleagues like Robert will post what's happening in Australia up there. And if you set up an alert, that will just notify you. That might be
great.
Yeah. Let the technology keep us informed on that.
Sounds perfect.
Yeah, and then in Saudi, if you are closely monitoring this region, there is a Saudi Global Health Conference that's coming up in October 21st, or around a couple of days around there. But what we are going to be doing is hosting a peer-to-peer networking event at our embassy residence in Saudi. And this is an initiative that was led by two companies, Toku Eyes and Aurora Biosurgery, and we're looking at inviting potential target audience, but other businesses are welcome, and I think Orion is thinking about joining that event as well. So if you are interested, again, let me know, and we can jump on a call and talk a little bit more about it. Now, just to be aware that there are costs associated to this, and it is a partial cost, because we also do need to recover our costs going forward, as is the new environment these days, but they are minimal costs. Like, for example, 1,500 for the panel, the New Zealand Health Symposium per company. Okay, so in Canada, we are evaluating a health tech accelerator program in collaboration with the Accelerator Centre in Toronto. Again, if you're interested, let me know in the chat, and we can see if we can organise another call to dive into this particular area in detail. I'm working with my colleague in Canada to see the relevance of that. So if you are interested, just give me an indication, because I know that many of your members are not NZTE customers as well, but it is quite suitable for startups. So I know Clax and I have been talking, and we are going to be working with you a little bit more closely on your members and seeing where that cross over and where you are interested in terms of exporting or interested markets, so that we can bring more relevant topics at these calls. But in the meantime, I'll hand you over to my lovely colleague, who is like 7 o'clock in the mornings, or at 7:30. Hopefully coffee's kicked in, Robert, and he is going to share some exciting things that he's been working on. And I've got our landing page link there as well for those who need to dive in there. Right, Robert, are you ready? Where are you?
I am.
Okay, you are.
I'm uncaffeinated, so bear with me. Morning, everyone. Good to see you all. So I'll make this quick so that we John can then jump into his bits as well.
Morning, Rob. Good to see you.
Morning, Rill. How you doing?
Good.
yeah, so I just thought I'd do a very quick wrap up of Digital Health Fest 2024. So all the fun we had back in May in Melbourne. Talk a little bit about our ambitious plans for next year's event. And then I'll mention a couple of insights from the AIDH HIC conference up in Brisbane that I was at a few weeks back. So just jumping straight into Digital Health Fest 2024, we went from 6 customers in the previous year in 2023 up to 12 companies on the pavilion this year. We separated those into gold and silver sponsorships, as this year we wanted to have kind of a lower barrier to entry in terms of payment for businesses, and give kind of a premium level 1 for companies who wanted to get on board with that. That's the companies who were there. Erica, if you want to jump through to the next slide.
Sure. Move to the next slide.
Which is the video. So just a very quick wrap-up video. There we go. So yeah, so that was a lot of you were there at the event back in May. So a bit of a flashback there. And what we wanted to do with that show wrap up video was not for it to be an advertisement for Digital Health Fest, but for it to be an advertisement for all the great tech and companies that are coming out of New Zealand. So we've been using that heavily as NZTE to spread the message far and wide here in Australia. And a special shout out to Kerry Campbell there from Orion, who actually named the Digital Health Festival the Coachella of Health, which has stuck around and I believe they're going to be using. So we'll try and get her some credit for that. But yeah, great event. We upped it quite considerably from 2023. We had a program of events. We had some pre-event networking sessions with the companies that were on the pavilion. We did some beachhead sessions around how to best show up and how to best get the best results from the show. We had a New Zealand Health Tech VIP kickoff dinner on the Monday evening before the show, which again was double the size of the one last year. We had some great guests come along to that, so shout out to Ril for her assistance in bringing together some of those guests to come along to the dinner. And at that dinner, we did kind of a roving mic session, getting some insights on the Australian digital health space and what's coming down the pipe here. We had a on pavilion networking drinks and Kappa Haka performance, as you would have seen, which was phenomenal once again. Really did stop the show. We were on that main crossroads in the exhibition space, and it was everybody stopped to watch that, which was fantastic. And that was sponsored by Orion as part of their package as well, so hats off to Orion there. And again, and then also with Orion, we did a NZT networking breakfast on the Wednesday morning, which was another great addition. So hats off to Orion for that, and doff of the cap to Clax, because that original engagement for me with Orion in market actually happened from his introduction a couple of years ago. So that's the evolution of that. So thanks very much for that, mate. Erica, next slide. Thank you very much. And we'll talk a little bit about plans for next year. It's all a work in progress at the moment, and budgets are tight, but we're still pushing forward. So we're expanding from 72 to 90 square meters. In year one, 2023, we had 56 square meters. So we've almost doubled that. Central positioning again. We're bringing 12 to 18 businesses onto the pavilion with a refreshed design next year. We're looking at bringing in high-level government support or representation from New Zealand. We're going to be working with our MFAT colleagues to make that happen. Possibly some ministerial support there, so we'll see how that goes. The thinking behind that is the fact that there were over 40 New Zealand health tech companies in attendance at the show. The 12 on our pavilion, some were there under their own steam, and so many came over to visit, and it really, almost half the sector was there in terms of exports. So we feel that we need some extra support. With that high level support and possibly getting over some prominent figures, we have been offered a headline keynote speech at the conference. But again, that's contingent on high level support and who comes over. We're partnering with MedTech IQ Aotearoa to include freshly commercialized businesses. So MedTech IQ is Auckland Institute. It's all the university commercialization arms coming together. So we'll be bringing some of those businesses in. So essentially, we have our own startup alley. We'll have our kickoff dinner again. We'll have on pavilion networking drinks, and the Kappa Haka won't be going anywhere. We will have once again a New Zealand Health Tech on stage panel, which we had this year, and hopefully going bigger and better for that. And then there's an option to add speakers to additional panels that are going on throughout the 2 days from the New Zealand ecosystem. We'll be repeating a networking breakfast. And then we'll also have a post-show work stream, so engaging with the Victorian health system, including some possible roundtable events, bringing together some G2G stuff. All a work in progress at the moment, but as you can see, we're being quite ambitious with the evolution of it for next year. And yeah, I've got my first real kind of budget meeting on that next Tuesday, so wish me luck. Yeah, so that's the plan for next year. I did just want to dip into a couple of things. Just on Erica's slide around global economic growth slowing. Australia, I don't know if you've seen, but Australia posted its slowest yearly economic growth for 30 years yesterday, 0.2%. which is, bad news, doom and gloom everywhere. However, anecdotally, what we're seeing in many sectors here with my colleagues is there's still a lot of digital transformation, infrastructure projects. There's so much still going on here on the ground. And especially in that health space, there's a lot happening. So we don't really see that slowing down. So although the top line figures, what we're seeing in the press is doom and gloom, as the press love to print doom and gloom, actually what we're seeing on the ground is still a lot happening. And what we've seen what I've seen over the last 6 months or so is a lot of businesses with the message that they're doubling down on the Australian market. And with everything that's happening back in New Zealand, doubling down on the Australian market, and there is so much going on here in the digital health space. So I'd encourage businesses to keep looking here for that. The other thing I wanted to talk about was the HIC conference up in Brisbane. AI is probably what I can bring out of that. Everyone was talking AI. Great conference. If anyone's been or anyone's thinking of going next year, I would encourage it. Very easy to access high-level conversations with the with the ADHA, with Queensland Health, with eHealth New South Wales. We're all there knocking around for 3 days, and it was very easy to get conversations with people. So I'd encourage people to join those AIDH conferences next time. And if anyone wants to have a conversation or dig any deeper about any of that, then please feel free to reach out. The other thing I was going to mention is the Australian Digital Health Agency's National Digital Health Strategy, which was soft launched at the Digital Health Fest this year. So I would encourage everyone to look into that, to keep tabs on that and see what's going on with that digital health strategy. It's termed as a once in a lifetime opportunity here in Australia, with all states, territories, and federal working together on this rollout over the next 5-6 years. And there's a lot of money on the table. So I would love New Zealand companies to get just a sliver of that, and that'll go a long way towards us doubling export value for New Zealand health tech. I did see, Ril, you had some.
Just making a couple of comments, Rob.
Yeah, thanks, Ril. And actually, to double down on that, similar comments I was getting from people at the HIC conference up in Brisbane, around New Zealand health tech being firmly front and center for Australian buyers now. They really do love what's coming out in New Zealand, and they're encouraging New Zealand companies to reach out to them, especially the ADHA and state governments as well. So yeah, I'm always here if anyone wants to reach out and have a chat about anything. And with that, I will close my piece.
Thanks, Robert.
Thanks, Rob.
And Erica. Great. We're all proud Kiwis, so it's a great story, and it highlights how diversifying and not being sort of reliant on a single market can be essential to weathering various situations, including what we're experiencing here in New Zealand, but noting, of course, it is hopefully seasonal, and we just have to work through the next 6 to 12 months, and things hopefully will turn around here in New Zealand as well. And on that note, I will hand over to you, John. Ready to go?
Well, thanks so much. Thanks, Paul. And thanks, Erica and Robert. Absolute FOMO for not being at that conference. Looked amazing. And I really loved the way you guys focused on the value that digital health presents to the target audience. So I think that's a really good way of talking about the things that we do. I've been invited by Paul to fill in a gap and talk about my perspectives on working in a global marketplace. I'm looking down the attendee list. There's a ton of people on this call that are way more qualified to talk about this than me. So these are really just some thoughts that I've picked up over kind of a career in digital health. I know a bunch of you already, but if you don't know, I've been heavily involved in digital health initiatives for a number of years, and that's really become my passion and my home. The ones that have been really, in my roles that I've had to date, they've been really focused on global markets. Stay in Front, where I worked for about 16 years, and CRM systems for pharmaceutical sales reps, effectively, and a lot of Salesforce automation. And so I had really high things like quality standards for pharmaceutical sample distribution, that sort of stuff. So really early days working with a quality software provider based in New Zealand, but really known better overseas. Atlantis Health, Hamish is on the call, one of the founders, great New Zealand company that's really known probably, again, more outside of the country than within. Orion Health, who's a great supplier to us. I'm really proud to say, many of the companies that are represented in DHA are actually suppliers to Southern Cross Healthcare, where I work now. And so it's great, as you guys just said, about using New Zealand-based health technology. It is world-class, world-leading. And finally, WebTools, company that worked with and did this very thing that we're talking about today, which is focused on expansion beyond the bounds of New Zealand. So really the idea about this talk was to talk about how a New Zealand-based health technology company might look abroad, offshore, and some of the pitfalls and opportunities that you might need to consider when you do that. My experience has been around setting up an Australian presence, so going from New Zealand to an Australian office and seeing that scale change, working heavily in the US or supporting our US teams, both with Orion and Stay in Front and some of Atlantis work, and then spending time in some of the Asian markets and a touch in Europe too. So this is pretty broad, but let's see what we can learn. The first question, does population equal opportunity? It really doesn't. It unlocks the scope, the size of the market, but actually you've got to carve out your niche, I think, in the kind of organizations that we are here in New Zealand, and you've got to find success. So I had a US-based CEO once, and he said, if you're going to drill for oil, start where there's oil wells. And so he was sort of looking, you don't just go and set up in the middle of nowhere. You actually want to find your sort of sweet spot and actually start mining in that spot. And so I think depending on the product or the service that you're offering, the population gives you a bigger market, but you've got to find the right population and the right fit, because as I'll talk about some of the things that we face here, taking our products that work well in New Zealand offshore, you might face some of the similar problems that when we see in a US-based company coming to New Zealand and pitching, and first thing they say is something about your social security number. They obviously haven't read the room, haven't done their research. So we want to avoid that in reverse, where we go overseas, try and tackle a market and come across looking like we don't really know what we're talking about in that global space. So, to get ready to scale for growth and head offshore, we really want to be thinking about, have we got our house in order? Do we have the right people? Is our product ready? Or can we have got a roadmap to get it ready? Are we hosting our software so it can scale globally? And have we really thought about this as something that we're purposeful about? Will we be able to compete on a world stage? I think what we've heard earlier in this call, that absolutely we can compete as a nation. Can you leverage some of that success and carve out your own success? Absolutely, but just go into this eyes open. You definitely need quality baked into everything you do, and great to have a cool conference presence, but you're going to hit a bunch of gatekeepers, and they're going to ask you for your credentials. They're going to ask you for evidence. They're going to ask you for ISO certification and so on. So have you actually really prepared your solution offering to be truly global and ready? And I just mentioned that the evidence of your success. So great to say you supported 2 DHBs in New Zealand, but how does that scale? How does that relate to a North American setting or somewhere in the Middle East? And there is ways to do that. So you don't be be creative on how you actually refer into that, but definitely you want to have a good story and show data that shows that you've actually got some track record. You want to look at ways of getting into market. So how are people going to know you exist? You won't have the marketing budgets to compete with some of the established players. So what can you do to differentiate yourself? Tap into the NZTE events, get some of the reflected glow from those things. And then look at, when you do become successful, how are you going to support your customers, your users, and your partners in different time zones around the world when they don't take a big month off for summer holidays like we do quite often. I just thought this is one to think about. This matrix is really important. It's called an Ansoff matrix. If you're looking at expanding, do you create new market opportunities? So do you actually take your product and go into a new market? Or do you stay within your current market and create new products? And so there's a choice that product owners and businesses need to make. The thing that's the most risky is to do both at once. And I think that's really what people are often doing, because they say, well, we've outgrown New Zealand, but we're going to create this brand new product and we're going to take on North American market with this new thing that hasn't really been tried. So my caution to you is either, create an opportunity with new products within your existing markets, or take your existing products into new markets. If you do both, there's an extra level of risk, so just be prepared for that. Think about who's going to buy your products. What problem do you solve? Who would pay and how much would they pay? So what's the value? And I think that's really important. Often people, have an amazing application, a cool mobile app, and then you find out that health consumers won't even pay $2 for it. So you've got to find a funder who's going to actually purchase that in bulk from you to make it work. So really, that's about also testing and learning and being willing to walk away. So great idea, not the right time. Market's not ready. And then probably, obviously, as part of your planning, you need some milestones and know if you're actually on track. So I threw together a few opportunities and pitfalls. One is the tyranny of distance. You really have to get on a plane and go. You can have a great supportive relationship over Teams and Zoom like we are right now, but you've really got to open those doors in person. Tyranny of time zones. I can't tell you the number of times that I got offered a meeting opportunity on a Saturday morning at 5 a.m. from North Americans finishing their day on a Friday. And, European meetings in the middle of the night would not be unusual. So think about that. Power distance. New Zealand, we're so flat and open and friendly. When you go to Australia, you'll find there's a bit of gatekeeping and protective layers. When you go to the North American market, we'll talk about, getting to meet the EVP or the CEO. You're dreaming. So people go their careers 20 years without ever meeting their CEO sometimes. So how are you going to tackle that? One of the beautiful things about being a Kiwi is that you're not afraid to talk to anybody. And I'm generalising, but that seems to be the way we're known. So that can work well for you. But once you've opened those doors, you've also, as the next couple of points there, you've got to actually follow through and think about that when you're planning your tyranny of distance thing. If you're only in market for a week and they push your meeting back a week, what are you going to do? How are you going to sort that problem out when the VP wants to meet with you a week later instead of today? And I've already talked about proof of value. How does what you do deliver value in that market? I talked to Paul and Erica about this in our sort of prep call. The number 8 wire, that mentality was a great way of building reputation, innovating, being able to do more with less resources. Really cute, really inspirational, but I think potentially there's a time and place for it. It might be an idea that's run its course when you're competing on the global market. We need to flip that to more focused on quality and depth of research and innovation, not just shall we right mate and cobbling something together. So I think be careful about the number 8 wire. Might be cool for a backstory, but you've got to then come through with the quality metrics. You're going to head up against internal teams, really large IT teams who are just going to do what you can do, and you're going to head up against multinational providers already established in the global market, so you want to play in. So just think about that. sometimes we've dealt with IT teams who are bigger than our companies, that we work for. And so there's a bit of a power balance been going on there. That in itself is actually an opportunity, because sometimes those organizations are so big they can't get out of their own way. So we can be more nimble and agile and get in and succeed. Pay mind to the certifications that you're going to need, HIPAA for hosting health data in the North American markets. Great idea, have a digital therapeutic, but is that a software as a medical device, and does that have to go through approval processes? And I think informally, someone told me in Europe they were spending about $2 million on product development, and then $8 million on testing and regulation to get a $10 million digital therapeutic to market. So that's a big chunk of money that you have to invest. So you have to think about, is this actually a medical device, or is it just a supportive technology? We talk about Europe, we talk about North America, we talk about Asia. Those are clusters of regions. There are many regional nuances, differences, competing players, dominant customers in each region. So just saying we're going to head off into North America, there are, as you all know, zones and states within that all act and transact differently. One thing I learned a lot about in my time at Orion was the different expectations of different cultures. And NZTE were great. They ran a training course around working in China, and I saw that absolutely bear out when you would get an email, and then 10 minutes later you get a call asking if you'd followed up on that email. So be prepared in our laid back Kiwi way. Is that going to gel with nations where they want an immediate response to their questions? And then I think one of the real opportunities for us all is taking advantage of some of the local benefits. You might have to be structured differently to do this, but one of the things that we were able to access in Atlantis, because we had a European presence, was Horizon funding, which was Horizon 2020, now Horizon Europe, which has got about $95 billion of funds. And there's a cluster around health, and so there might be ways of either getting a share of that, or working with an established partner, bringing your technology into their research programs or something to actually be funded. A couple of ideas about how you might go about actually entering market. Those would be, a landing pad, so direct presence, get in there. Service offices work great. You can definitely service remotely from New Zealand, but someone's going to get a lot of air points in that approach, and it might not be ideal once you actually find that you have to have these follow-up meetings. You need to find a local partner in many cases, and actually in some places that's actually a regulatory or a business requirement. You need someone in market to be able to do the transactions. One option that worked really well when I was at Stayfront was winning a global multinational company in New Zealand like GSK or AstraZeneca or Roche, and then actually going through the food chain and getting into Australia through referrals and through our own sponsors moving to Singapore or whatever, they'd take you with them. So find ways of selling up the food chain and actually proactively hunt those opportunities out, because that's your best way, a warm intro into those markets. Help your lead into a large anchor client, and then it gives you a track record in market. But really, you've got to have that really strong advocate who's actually willing to bring you in, and then you've got to support that person or those people to push through their internal gatekeepers because of all these other things I mentioned earlier. At Atlantis, we had this situation where we would sell a global deal, and then each of the markets would have to go and sell local. So there's some optionality. They may choose to adopt that program or not. So be prepared to continue to sell after the sale. And then some of the strategies you might look at would be to augment existing platforms. Like Salesforce has their App Exchange. Can you become a health tech enabler of their big health platforms? Just do a really cool widget better than anyone else, and then have their Salesforce go and sell it on your behalf. Have you got accelerators or integrators that make implementing big mega platforms easier, or do you provide value on top through device monitoring or analytics? A couple of ideas there. Do you go all in? Either do you set up your own office and have a team in market? And there, what are you going to do about getting money out? How are you going to actually run your business and be prepared to pay taxes and optimize your cash flow? So just some learnings there. I don't have to tell you all this, but you can either fund it yourself, you can go into debt, you can raise capital, which has been tough, I think, in the venture capital space. You can go public, as Orion did at times. And then what are you going to do at the end of it? Are you going to get bought out? Are you just going to continue to sustain this business, or are you looking for an acquisition? Yeah. And then the last thing I want to kind of touch on there is leveraging New Zealand Inc. So actually, everything that Erica and Robert talked about, all those mechanisms that they offer through NZTE, not everybody is a focused client, but there's materials out there, as Erica might have mentioned, the My NZTE portal, the beautiful branding that you can use to help support your story, and then get into groups like this. If you're on this call, you're already partway there with DHA. You've got people who you know on this call who have been there, done that, and they might help you with introductions and advice. And of course, joining those conference delegations. Okay, Tim already talked about the NZEU, and I'm sure the ambassador may talk more about this in future. But it was really cool to be in Ireland, which is a member of the EU and our closest member partner, when they launched this in May. So I was there as part of the Enterprise Ireland delegation, and that was fantastic. So we actually got to go to the ambassador's residence, and you can see Trevor Mallard, the ambassador, there in the background, as they did a beautiful waiata with some sort of Kiwi expats. Met the dog, who's really the highlight of the event. And then great to see the Orion team turning up in force as well. So, we had Simplicity, Orion, and a whole bunch of other companies like Fonterra represented there in Ireland. And for me, that was a really great event to sort of see how New Zealand are taking business to the world through these kinds of arrangements. So that's it. Whistle stop tour finished just on time, I think. Paul, I'll hand back to you.
Outstanding, thanks, John. I think a request to Rill and Kelly and Co. That's an outstanding presentation, and anyone who's been unable to join will be great to highlight both the NZTE presentation, but also yours. Thank you, John, because if anyone's getting started,
outstanding morning, team. Absolutely outstanding morning. Just both NZTE and John, just blown away with all of that. I think it was really, really good, and very keen to make sure that we might actually get this recording out a bit further, Clicks, because I think this is so important, and people are not, they're not actually engaging as much as what we would like. And I think we really need to have people understanding those opportunities and the benefits available to them. John, what amazing learnings, John. I thought that was great summary, and
thanks,
keen to help use that as we build that landing page. Erica, I want the page to be more than just, it's actually got to be an exporting landing page. What are the tips, and then links off to you guys and things like that, and all their different events and stuff like that. It's just well done. Congratulations, all three. Thank you so much.
If you both wouldn't mind sharing your presentations, if you pop them through via email to me, that would be fantastic, if you don't mind. Thank you.
No problem.
And the
No
fact
problem,
that
we'll do.
the veterans, as noted, with great respect, Hamish and Mark and Andy and everybody doing thumbs up just shows how on the money you are, John. So awesome. Okay, I'll close with a brief karakia. Kua mutu a mātou mahi, mo tēnei wā, mana ki tia, mai mātou katoa, o mātou hoa, o mātou whānau, ai ki te arangi. Our work is finished for the moment. Protect us all, our friends, our families. Peace to the universe. Kia ora. Thank you all.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you. All good.